Hi, everyone. I'm Leah Lopez, the Manager of Member Engagement here at ASA, and I would like to welcome you to Repfabric's Mastering Technology Adoption webinar. Thanks for joining us. Scott Stockham will join us here in a moment. ASA would like to thank its 60 plus supplier partners for their continued support of all we do here at ASA. Without the support, many of the programs and services ASA offers would not be possible. The same goes for our 50 plus sustaining supplier partners. These ASA member reps have gone above and beyond in their support of ASA. Thank you. ASA association partners are also a big part of the ASA family. Shout out to Federated Insurance, Dell Technologies, and Repfabric. Ace Apparel is the paramount choice for ASA member firms in search of apparel catering to all attire needs ranging from warehouse essentials to boardroom elegance and everything in between. You'll find top-notch styles sourced from brands known for their quality materials, ensuring durability and comfort. Whether you need a modern or classic look, Ace Apparel has you covered for any occasion with effortless solutions. All ASA members that place an order will receive free embroidery set up on their first order, and any questions you can email Mike Miazga. ASA's biggest event of the year, Network 2024, is open for registration and coming up soon. We will be in Chicago, Illinois, November 13th through 15th. Sign up now, spots are filling up. Here is my contact information for any additional questions you may have. If you have any questions for Scott during today's webinar, don't hesitate to ask it by using the Q&A function on your Zoom toolbar. And with that, I will turn it over to Scott.
Great, thank you so much. I very much appreciate it. And of course, Repfabric, we're very honored to be a partner with ASA and also very honored to be able to speak to you all here today. And also thank you for taking the time to attend. I think we have it scheduled for an hour. We definitely won't go that long, probably 35, 40 minutes, and then we can, we'll try to hit the Q&A as we go. But if nothing else, we will definitely get to the Q&A at the end. So with that, I'm going to share my screen. And Leigh, if you just make sure you can tell me you can see it once I say I'm sharing, that would be great.
Yep, we can see it.
All right, excellent. All right, so as she said, today we're going to talk about technology adoption. Keep in mind, we are a CRM company. However, the intent of this particular webinar is really around any kind of technology. A lot of principles you're going to see here can apply to any technology adoption. Many times we'll use CRM as just an example of how we communicate some of these concepts. But again, hopefully you can see where you use these in other areas of technology implementations. So with that, for those who don't know me, just quick background, I spent 25 years with manufacturers. My first 10 years at GE in the electrical business, 5 years then in the mechanical world of pumps at Pentair. Then I spent a couple years over at Masco Bath, for those who remember the Aquaglass brand. Then I went to American Standard, Grohe, DXV, the Lixil company, where I was the head of U.S. trade sales for about 5+ years. And so, and now I'm the Chief Revenue Officer and a partner at Repfabric. So with that, if you want to see some of our other webinars, feel free to go to our website here and under resources webinars. We host a webinar probably at least once a month. And we do have another webinar with ASA coming up here in December on AI and its implications for the plumbing industry. So check that out as well. So really, as I was saying, this is really adoption principles across all kinds of technology platforms. Some of these you may be aware of or you have now. So whether it's CRM, whether it's ERP, or it's CPQ tools, configure price quote tools, like an IS quote, for instance, or an ATS, whether it's a PIMS system. So we had this, in my past, a product information management system, team collaboration applications, such as Microsoft Teams or even Zoom, what have you, and many, many more. So the first thing I will tell you when it comes to the adoption of technology, and it's going to sound very simple as a lot of the concepts here today will be, is your number one new best friend when it comes to getting your team to adopt technologies is this phrase that we use all the time: push the buttons, right? So we'll have people come and say, hey, I tried to use the system and I just don't understand it, and I'm having trouble with it, and I can't use it. It's not for me. And we go and see that they've only tried it once or twice. So any kind of technology is like any other kind of habit. You have to form the habit, and that usually means 2 to 3 weeks of doing it on a consistent basis. So much like a new gym regimen or even getting to the gym, you actually have to go and push the buttons. So one of the things that we liken what we do is to a gym membership, actually. So we can have the best personal trainer in the world and you can have the best gym equipment in the world. But if you don't go to the gym, you're not going to see the results you're looking for. So just make sure that when you're implementing new technologies, you're encouraging your team to push the buttons. And we're going to show you some techniques on how you do that. So adoption really is it's fundamentally is just change management, right? So it's how we go about implementing change within our organization. So here's kind of some 5 key steps in increasing adoption. We'll go through each of these 5. The first thing is paint the vision for the team, and we're gonna get into what that looks like. The second piece is lead by example, and I'm gonna give you a specific example there as well. The third is understand your team, because you have different types of learners on your team. So understand what their learning styles are and try to cater your change management to those different styles. I always love good, healthy competition. So create some competition within your team. And then finally, enforce and reinforce the good and bad behaviors, right? So make sure your team really knows where you stand and what the expectations are for the new technology. So let's start with the first thing, painting the vision. So for instance, on a CRM system, the reason why you put a CRM system is to grow sales and to make your team more efficient. So if you think about it, 2 basic ways to grow sales: you either hire more people or you become more efficient, right? And so a CRM system is just that, is a sales efficiency tool first. It's not a micromanagement tool, right? So if your team can understand and embrace that concept, they're much more likely to adopt the system. So to give you an example, and this is stuff that you'd share with your team, we did a study back in 22 that we had about 400 companies using our platform. Those who were actively engaged in it grew on average over 8%, whereas their peer group just grew over 2%. And keep in mind, this is across all different kinds of industries, so don't get too hung up on, is 8 good or 2 is not good, but it's really the delta between the two. 600 basis points of difference between people who adopt systems like these and the ones who don't. So for instance, another way to socialize this with your team, again, you could tailor this to an ERP system or a PIM system, but for a CRM system, a slide we got here from ASA, which is the primary value is providing information to the sales team. So show your sales team what you're really trying to do is keep them in front of their customers. It's not to sit there and fill out call reports or be behind their computer. So some of the ways that we do this for getting buy-in is socialize with your team what they might be able to get out of it. So it's the old what's in it for me, what's in it for them kind of thing. So here's some sample questions that we share with prospects and customers alike. And so I won't read all these here, but just a few ideas here. Hey, as a salesperson, would it be beneficial if we could surface customer data right to your cell phone? Or if we could do email marketing on your behalf so that we can give you really warm leads? Or would you be able to like to see initiatives and goals that are important to the companies and your own success? Would you like to have a list of quotes right on your phone? Be able to see orders and sales data right on your phone, and see past conversations that you or anyone in your company has had with customers. See emails that have gone back and forth between you and your customers, not just the ones that you sent. So, and again, not to read them all, but you get the idea. Pull together a list of questions of what's beneficial for the person who's actually going to be using the technology. So the second piece, so the lead by example, super important that if you're going to put in a system, you can't just tell people to go use it if you're not fundamentally, as the manager or the champion or the super user, obviously going to be able to use it yourself. So encourage people to lead by example. And then I want to show you a specific example that one of our customers did where they put together this email. And again, it's going to be a little bit long here, so a little bit of reading as you go. I won't read the whole thing to you. Just in summary, what he said was, hey, we're implementing a new technology platform here in the coming days. You're going to get an email telling you what you need to do. You need to do some online training. Make sure you get it done by this date, because we're going to meet with the system provider on this date. We'll record it for you in case you can't get there. And then he gave them the call to action. So log in, get to know your way around it, and then do something in the system. And the thing I loved about what he says here, it's what I have highlighted. He says, I did it yesterday at their sales call. It took me less than 2 minutes from the parking lot. So here's a leader here really leading by example. So if you can show your team you're willing to use the system, they're much more likely to get on board, of course. And then the next thing he did in the second part of this email is basically take that list of benefits that I had here that I showed you last time, and just put those in bullet point form to get the sales team excited about the idea of putting in the system. Then at the bottom, he says, hey, this is a process. This is a journey. We will not all be experts, and we'll all be learning together. So he's setting that safe environment, that safe learning environment. Don't get panicked. Don't get frustrated. Be curious, be challenging, and be open to how we can always be improving, right? So that's super important, that you create that safe learning environment, that people aren't afraid to ask questions and really understand that they can make mistakes in here. And also realize that any technology platform, any good technology platform, is always going to continuously evolve, right? So, as you've heard the terms AI, we're putting AI into our system. We launched an expenses module, a year ago, and we continue to add more and more modules within our system, just as any good ERP system will do, what have you. So realize it is a journey, and in one sense, it's almost a never-ending journey because the systems continue to evolve. There's always something new to learn, which is a good thing. So, and I love the quote he put at the bottom here from Henry Ford. He said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right? So you really hopefully are going from a horse type of transportation to a car transportation when you're implementing technology. Okay, so the third thing we said is understand your team. So I want to talk a little about how adults learn and how there's different types of adult learners and how you can address those different types of learners. So a saying here by Confucius, tell me and I will forget, show me I may remember, evolve me and I will understand. So involve your team, because the challenge you're going to have is if they don't use the system consistently, they don't feel like they're involved, they're going to fall into this forgetting curve. So this is in memory of Herman Ebbinghaus. So he's a main contributor to experimental psychology. So that he says, unless used, 90% of newly trained skill is forgotten after 30 days. And this is true of almost any interaction you have, by the way. That's why we encourage people to log call notes right after a sales call, because you can see here from, if you wait till the end of the day, you're probably going to forget almost 60% of what you talked about. Same thing goes with learning a system. If you don't use it consistently, or if you wait to use it after you've been trained, it goes away over time. So the second piece here is understand that professionals, they learn by 10% of what they hear and 20% of what they read. At the end of the day, it's all about seeing and doing. So again, push the buttons. It's super critical. That's how adults learn. And then also remember the 3 R's of habit formation when it comes to technology. If you have a positive reward, in other words, praise from your manager or some other type of carrot, which we'll get into carrots and sticks in a minute, then you're going to have the desire to repeat the action, okay? And every time you repeat it, a new reminder comes up, and eventually you form this new habit, right? So understand the rewards you're going to get for your people, whether to give some examples here. Understand it, remind them to do it as well, and then create that routine. And this will be kind of self-fulfilling as well. Another rule we like to talk about is the rule of 7. So on the average, it takes a professional 7 times to do something to have some kind of proficiency for it. So again, if you're asking your team to, get into the ERP system, make sure they're doing it every day. If they're going to a CRM system, whether it's a PIM system, make sure they're going in pushing these buttons on a consistent basis, and they're gonna have to do it at least 7 times before they feel comfortable. Explain this rule of 7 to your people too, and say, hey, don't get frustrated the first 2 or 3 times. It's hard to learn new things sometimes. So understanding your team, let's get a little deeper into that. So understand that we classify learners into 4 different types, okay? So there's 4 different types of learners. You may be some combination thereof. I'll self-identify as we go through each of these as well. So understand that's the type of learners you have. So the first type of learner we talk about is the tech-savvy person, right? These are obviously the easiest people to get to adopt new technology because they already love it, right? For a system like ours, people under 35 expect to have a system like ours, expect to have this kind of technology, and they expect it to be on their phone. And so without that, they get really disappointed. So, but understand, these people understand why you're putting the system in. They're going to take the collaboration and communication next level. They're going to drive hard to create a good, positive work environment. And they're going to understand that this is going to help them be better at their job, and they're going to be excited about it, right? So what do you do with these people? It's not hard to train them because they're going to be excited about it anyway. But what you do is you have them mentor the others, right? The others that maybe aren't so good at and we'll get to those in a minute. Also involve them in the development of the training, right? So if you're doing specific training, if your service provider, gives you kind of a high level training, you're doing specific training for your particular implementation, involve them in that. And then also give them opportunities to kind of step out of the normal bounds of what they do, right? So, and really encourage their self-discovery and create that positive environment. So that's learner number one, the tech savvy salesperson, obviously our favorite type of learner. Learner number two is the one that we deal with a lot because we deal with a lot of salespeople because we sell sales efficiency software, right? It's the ADD sales guy. They say that this guy has an average attention span of about 8 seconds, which is probably less than a goldfish, right? These guys squirrel very quickly. They have a hard time staying focused. They tune out after 15 seconds of conversation. So understand that you're going to have to cater your training to them. So how do you solve for the ADD sales guy? Make sure that it's on the job learning rather than just real dense learning. Declutter that internal training. So make sure there's nothing too extraneous in there. Make sure you get something that gets their attention and gets them excited. Like, hey, we're going to increase sales by 600 basis points if you do this. Then the other piece is use micro learning. And so we did this a lot at my former company, and we do it, of course, here. Micro learning, it's going to be 3 to 7 minute modules that you can take on your own time, and you don't have to spend too much time doing it. Because if you're like me, I can't sit still for more than 15 minutes behind a computer. 1 or 2 courses, maybe 3, and then I'm kind of off to the next thing. So make sure you break it down. And then also use storytelling narratives. So that is going to increase their interest. Give them real life examples. Okay. Then also give them a variety of activities just to keep the stimulus up and keep switching things around. So that's the second type of learner. As you probably learned, I'm probably more self-identified with the ADD than the tech savvy, although I like to say I'm a little bit of both. The third person, the soft learner. So these are the people that, let's just face it, it just takes them some time to get to know how to do things, right? And that's okay, because once the soft learner learns, they're going to become advocates for everybody else in the organization, because once they get it, they get it. Just understand they may not be the most techy. They don't understand how to implement tech. And they always kind of live in the present. They're not necessarily your strategy people. These are your tactical people. But that's okay, because once they learn, they can become, again, those advocates for you. So how do you solve for the soft learner? Empower them, right? Make learning interesting, comfortable, give concrete examples. Don't be too abstract in things. Give very short and very specific directions on what you need done and when it needs to be done by, and then work closely with them, right? We talked about that tech savvy person trying to help them. Have the tech savvy person help and mentor the soft learner, and then encourage them to look around for other things. We have soft learners that once they get into the system, man, they really get it, and then they start learning on their own. Now the fourth one, and this is a difficult one to talk about. It's the uncoachables. Okay, so these are the people that aren't very tech savvy, and frankly, they're not very willing to learn, right? So they think everything outside is factors of the problem. It's not them. They don't necessarily always reflect on their own performance. They don't realize that the way they behave has a negative impact on their teammates and their teammates' adoption in this case. And so they don't see themselves as the problem. So there's a couple things you can do with the uncoachables. And we have seen great success stories with uncoachables that become advocates over time. So let's talk about some of these techniques, and we'll talk about a final one that maybe isn't so great. But just know that saying somebody is uncoachable, obviously you're not going to use that term necessarily to them, but just know that that's a very serious thing to think of someone as. We do recommend that leaders take a look at themselves and make sure it's not just the uncoachable person. Maybe it's the direction they've been getting. So just understand that. Take care, when having these discussions, try to understand what's their motivating factors. It may be just different than how they're currently set up. And they might just feel like they're stuck in a job. So maybe understand that. Initiate conversations about what motivates them, right? And support them in their growth, but also make sure you're setting clear expectations and boundaries. And then finally, create that environment where they feel like they can come talk to you. So if you think about it, when I say the uncoachable, this is really probably less of an adoption problem and more of a performance problem. So which hopefully can be done with coaching or a PIP. And let's face it, sometimes the uncoachables are called that for a reason, and you just have to cut ties with them. So just understand, unfortunately, that can be the outcome as well. So, okay. Let's talk about creating some competition. So this is one of my favorite things. And, frankly, this is what we did at my old company, in my previous company, I should say, is we create a lot of competitions whenever we could. So think about, what's going to motivate your team. Is it the carrot or the stick? And we're going to give them specific examples on carrots and sticks. And we'll probably do the sticks first and do the carrots second, since the carrots are a little more fun to talk about. But I love this little cartoon here where the carrot's looking at the stick and saying he's a psycho, and the stick is looking at the carrot and saying, yeah, you're a wimp, right? So let's talk about creating the competition. So what we did when we implemented Salesforce at Lixil is that I had a leaderboard that we went through every week, right? So we had a weekly sales call, Friday mornings, 10 o'clock Eastern, and we would have the entire team on. So sometimes 80 to 100 people would be on the call. And after we implemented Salesforce and was up and running, we had a leaderboard. And for the first, I'll say 3 or 4 weeks, we talked about the people at the top of the leaderboard and what a great job they're doing. And so they really could, all their peers could see what they were doing. Then what we do is start moving down the leaderboard, right? And so we'd say, okay, by the 4th or 5th week, now we're saying, okay, Billy and Susie, you're doing okay, but you really should be moving up. You're not doing as many activities as we'd like you to see. And then, of course, towards the end, it became more public shaming of why are you so far down on the board? And, people respond to different kind of pushes. And so some people will respond to the positive reinforcements and some to the negative, but either one, we try to make sure we had people moving up on that leaderboard. And the other thing we did is we tried to lead by example too. So I made sure that myself and my direct reports were somewhere on that leaderboard. We weren't going to be the high users, but we wanted to show that we were using the system. So again, lead by example while creating that competition. So let's talk about some of the other carrots and sticks here. So here's some other sticks that some of our customers use. So number one is tie the initiative. So whether it's CRM or ERP implementation or new PIM system, tie the initiative to somebody's bonus, right? Hey, if we don't implement this correctly or you don't adopt correctly, you're not going to get bonuses at the end of the year. As you'll see, this will be our first stick, our first carrot as well. So one of our other customers said, hey, look, if you're not recording your activities with customers, I'm going to assume that you're taking personal time off, that you're on vacation, because why wouldn't you be recording your discussions with your customers unless you're not seeing them, right? So I'm gonna dock you a vacation day when I don't see that there. The third one is not reimbursing expenses. We had another customer who did this that said, hey, I'm not going to keep paying your expense reports if I don't see that you have any activity around this initiative. So why would you be spending money if you're not actually tracking your activities? The fourth one, as I said, public shaming. That's always good, particularly among a peer set. And then finally, and this is the one that, some smaller companies, I think, struggle with. I think it's probably a little bit easier in the corporate world. But smaller companies, particularly that are family owned, this is a hard thing to do. But at the end of the day, make it a condition of employment. So unfortunately, sometimes the only thing people understand is either paycheck or pink slip. And that's where we got to eventually as well, which is to say, hey, we want you here, we want you on the bus, but if you don't want to do this, then pink slip is probably the way you want to go. So, all right, let's talk about some of the more fun ones here, the carrots. So again, bonuses. Bonuses are another one. Hey, if you do these, we're going to give you more of a bonus. And we've seen that, where we're going to pay you initially to use the system, because once we pay you to use it and you start engage it, you're going to form that habit and use it on your own. So also do something like a group outing if you meet your goals. So we had a customer, you see here in electrical business, not in plumbing, but A to Z marketing. They said, hey, if we all did you enough of this adoption activity, we're going to go out to a baseball game together and get a suite at a baseball game. And so that's what they did. Third one is gift cards. Yeah, you give people gift cards when they do the right things, or if they do them very well too. It may not just be the number of activities they're doing, could be the quality of activities. The fourth one is team recognition, of course, in front of their peer set. We've talked a little bit about that. The one that we didn't talk about, which I think is cool, we have a customer that created a Teams channel. So now we're going to kind of put two different technologies together. They had a Teams channel that showed their activities from their CRM system. And so everyone could see in the Teams channel what the activity was. And in there, people would comment, or they would even give a thumbs up or a love button to somebody there. So you get that positive reinforcement from your team, and you're using two different technologies at once. So just know that you can do that. You can integrate those team collaboration applications along with things like a customer relationship management tool. Then finally, kind of flip side of condition of employment would be condition of promotion. So, you have someone who does a great job with their adoption of their technology. you want to recognize that person and you're going to promote them. And you tell people part of the reason they got their new job is because they were promoted or because they were active in the adoption of the technology and hopefully promoting it within their peer group as well. Okay, so just a couple things to enforce and reinforce the behaviors. So again, you're either on the bus or you're off the bus, and paychecks or pink slips again. Here's some things that we want to do and show you. Again, this is going to be a little CRM centric, but doesn't mean you couldn't do this for other technologies as well. So how would you go about reinforcing and enforcing good behavior? So enable a dashboard where people can see what they're doing, set goals for your team, and then measure the team. And I know that sounds very straightforward, but you'd be surprised how many people don't necessarily say, this is the goal of what we're going to do. So it's not just saying, hey, we want you to use this new technology. You need to say, we want you to use this technology and you need to do it this number of times a day or this number of times a week or what have you. But then also give them the ability to see how they're doing against those goals. So the way that we do it is we enable a goals dashboard right on our home screen when you come into our system, so you can see how you're doing. And we can, the user can see how they're doing 10 end users consultant calls per week. What's your goal and how have you done week to week? So these can be system measured goals or they can be custom goals. And what do you measure people on? What type of goals can be set up? It could be things like adding new companies into the system, adding new contacts. You know, what are we doing activities? Are we doing opportunities? Are we tracking our quotes? How many new quotes have we done? How many we added? How much are we quoting? What's the dollar amount? How many orders we're getting, obviously. How we're doing in sales. You know, a sales dashboard, of course, is super important. And then for our rep friends out there, how we're doing on commissions. For our distributor friends out there, how's our GP, and et cetera, et cetera. Then again, have these dashboards that your people can access and they can go in and see, and you can actually see how we're doing year to date. So, okay, again, your new best friend, push the buttons, push the buttons, push the buttons, push the buttons, please. And with that, if you would follow us on LinkedIn, we do some kind of cool stuff around not just adoption, but a bunch of other technology subjects. Some are around CRM, some are just in general. So we'd love to have you follow us there. Some quick little podcasts that we do. And then finally, we ended a little bit early. I said 40 minutes. Looks like we're about 30 minutes in, which is cool. Okay, so I got a question here. What is the best way to get more utilization and engagement on our current CRM from outside salespeople? And so, Brian, what I'd say on that is, again, it's going to be a little bit redundant to what I've said here, but I would say either I would start with carrots. I would give them some incentives to do it. I would also start leaning on some sticks if you had it around for a while. And then also what the benefit is to them, right? And so what I would suggest, Brian, you do is you contact your service provider of your CRM system and have them come in, maybe do another kind of quick boot camp training. We do not recommend the day-long training, okay? So it is not, it's not ideal to bring a sales team in particular off the road for an entire day, just because you can't absorb that much information that fast. So we recommend micro learning, as we talked about earlier. Then we recommend some instructor-led learning, typically on a Zoom or Teams call like this. But again, you don't want to have a call like this to be more than 30 minutes to an hour tops for salespeople in particular. So for my engineer friends out there, they're a little bit more disciplined. If it's a PIM system, marketing kind of in between, right? But for CRM systems, we recommend doing micro learning along with some instructor-led classes that are, an hour or so. Got the question, can Repfabric report out on all users to create a leaderboard? Yes, we can. Maybe not across all of our users, but within your instance, there's actually reports embedded in Repfabric that can show you usage, and we'll be happy. If you want to contact me, if you want to send me a separate email, my email address is up there, or just call my cell phone. We can show you how you can get those reports if you are a Repfabric user today. All right, I will give it just one more minute. Oh, there's a couple more coming in. Thank you. Got a question from Scott. Are admins able to view the dashboard of all users? Yes, they are. They are able to, admins can view, in our system at least, they can do pretty much everything. All righty. I think that is all of the questions, Leah, unless you have anything else.
Nothing on my end. Thank you, Scott, for a really great and informative webinar. If no one else has any questions, then we'll end it here and
Yeah.
I'll send out the recording tomorrow.
Yeah, real quickly, just again, thank you for the opportunity. And we will be at ASA Network, of course, in a couple of weeks. So look forward to seeing those who are going to be attending that, seeing you live in Chicago.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great
Bye-bye.
day.
Thank you.